we are up to speed. So really quickly, do we have any questions about participation points and how we get attendance? Is everybody good to go on that? Everybody understands that? Good to go. Also, what about the long-term goals? How did you guys do on that? Are we cool beans? Did it make sense? Does anybody have any questions about setting their long-term goals? No? All right. All right. So we're going to jump right on into it. So welcome back to week 2. Week 2 is going to piggyback off what we talked about in week 2, I'm sorry. Chapter 2 is going to piggyback off of what we talked about in chapter 1, and we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about this skill set. So we talked about hard skills and soft skills yesterday, and what we didn't touch on so much is basic skills. So we all know that you need skills to have a career, right? We wouldn't be in this program or wasting our money in a school if we didn't need skills, right? We all would love it if the companies would just hire us and then teach us what they want us to do. But at any rate, there are skills that are required. Now, the fundamental skills that we don't think about, but they are required, are basic skills. What are those? Reading, writing, speaking, listening, mathematics, and now technical skills. Can you believe it? Even technology's made the list. Now, some of you may look at this list and say, really? Don't we all have to read and write? Will you be surprised? I'm sure we know of someone that may have some challenges in those regards, and so they didn't think it was obvious. But yes, those things are obvious. And yes, technology skills, and we'll talk about what those skills are what people expect you to have. I mean, good, better, and different. Like they just make the assumption that we all know how to use technology, right? We also know that we need hard skills. And somebody remind me, what are those hard skills? Give me an example of what a hard skill is in your industry. Can someone give me an example? Anybody want to give me an example? Don't make me call on you now.
Driving.
What? Driving? What do you mean? You are driving? I don't understand what that means. William.
Oh, like for example, in our field in electricianship, getting certified to work with fire alarm systems.
That's a technical skill. What else? What about just some of the basic stuff that you have to do? Go ahead on there, listen.
In welding, we have a lot of blueprint reading and like fabrication that we have to work with.
If you look up a job description on any Indeed or anything, you're going to see those technical skills, right? That's something you should come to expect to see, right? Blueprint reading, for sure. Probably all of y'all need some of that, right? With the exception of the VA program. But those are hard skills, right? Now, soft skills are soft skills, AKA employability skills, foundational skills, workplace skills. They're all synonymous with one another. These are things that people expect you to have and that you acquire through life or through school. What are some of those skills? Thinking skills. And you may say, what do you mean by thinking skills? Well, we talk about thinking, we're talking about critical thinking. That is very important, my friends. What does that mean? That means that, your company expects you to know how to problem solve. They expect you to, because problems are going to happen. That's life, right? You deal with people, you deal with problems. They're synonymous with one another. And so you have to be able to try and problem solve. Like if you ever want to win the heart of your boss really, really quickly, come to them with a problem and 2 solutions. And that way, all your boss has to do is pick door number one or door number two. They'll love you for life. What companies tend to hate is when you just come with the problem and then kind of look at them like, what do you want me to do, boss? People don't like that. People like for you to come with solutions. So that's what they mean by critical thinking skills. If you run into an issue, do you know how to shift? Do you know how to problem solve, or do you know how to pivot? Right? You may hear that word a lot. Pivot, pivot. Can you pivot? Right? Because that's what they want you to be able to do. Because things happen. Clearly you need people skills, right? You need the ability to work with each other. You need the ability to engage with customers if that is needed. If you are working on a project team and you have to work across disciplines, they want you to have some people skills. Sorry, technical skills are not enough. We can all attest to someone that we know that has really great technical skills and no people skills. Give me a thumbs up if you know just one person. It could be to the left or right, but don't look at them. Don't look at them. Don't tell on yourself. But right, there's somebody that we know that God for poor things. They don't even know that's them. But just don't have great people skills. They probably think they're a great people person, right? I talked about me. Go ahead, Charlie. Or you were just saying, somebody. um Myself, I try to pride myself on being pretty personable, but if truth be told, I'm a very introverted person. And if I can just walk in a room and everybody freeze and I can grab what I need and unfreeze them when I leave, that'd be great for me. But that's not real life, right? So you have to have some ability to engage with others, and you need some personal qualities. These are the things that are going to carry you through. Let me tell you, as we all know, promotions and jobs and opportunities don't always go to the person that is the most talented. Sometimes it goes to the person that has a personality, which is awful, but it's true. Now, other things that they're going to want you to be mindful of are the workplace ethics that they have in place. And don't get these two confused. These are on the midterm, and I see a lot of people confuse code of conduct and code of ethics. So let's talk a little bit about it. When we talk about ethics, what are we talking about? We're talking about your own personal moral beliefs or principles, and we all have them. Some have more than others, but we all have some type of ethical principles that we live by. Well, when you go to a job, and even in your industries, there's ethics as well, right? There's a code of ethics in any type of discipline, particularly like the military, healthcare industry, the construction industry. Anytime where there could be a lot of accidents or someone could get hurt, you're going to find a lot of ethics, right? So when we talk about workplace ethics, it is the appropriate behavior in a business setting. So, what's the difference between conduct and ethics? Well, a code of conduct is what it dictates how employees are supposed to behave. Code of ethics dictates how the company should be conduct, how the business of the should be conducted in the business. Now, okay, that sounds crazy, but what does that mean? That means how you do your job, right? So one is how you behave and one is how you do your job. So for example, no cutting corners. If there's a 12-step program or it takes 12 different checks to make sure something is a go, don't say, oh, I'm at number 10, it's good to go. You got to go through all 12, right? So that's an ethical issue, making sure that you don't cut corners in any kind of way. Obviously if you're in the VA program, y'all deal with a lot of medicine and things of that nature, so you're gonna have a whole bunch of ethical issues. You wouldn't think that people steal animal drugs, but they do. Have they talked about that, the VA department? Give me a thumbs up, let me know if drugs have come up in your program. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. You would never think it, right? Yeah, I guess those horse tranquilizers come in handy. But anyway, so there's going to be a lot of ethical concerns in your respective industries. Now, there are some things, and here's where you got to be very, very careful, my friends. Now, I'm talking to you from a serious perspective, both as someone that used to teach HR and someone that is currently pursuing her law degree. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it to you. Um, Certain things are illegal. What does that mean? Unethical can get you fired. Illegal can get you in put jail or put in the court system. And no, you cannot say my boss made me do it. Can you imagine? So you need to be extra careful knowing what is unethical and what is illegal, particularly in the VA department. Like I just said, you can't take home a couple of horse tranquilizers and say, well, I don't know how they got in my bag. you know, you got to be very careful, my friend, because you can get in a lot of trouble. You need to know the difference. Conversely, companies can get sued by their employees by doing something that is illegal, right? So you have to know the difference between the two. The book talks about, two obvious ones: discrimination and harassment. you know um they don't like that drama because it is illegal and unethical, right? And who wants to be sued? I know of a lot of companies that have gotten sued just because some hotshot manager decided that they wanted to do things their own way and not follow their own ethical code that they're supposed to be impressing upon employees. So you don't want that drama, especially if you were deciding to run your own business. Please, you don't want that drama, right? You want to make money, not lose it. um this idea of digital citizenship, this technology thing just will not go away. I'm telling you, it won't go away. Companies are very concerned with how you present yourself online, and you need to be concerned with how you present yourself online, especially if you are going into your own business. So, what does that mean? That means that if you are little Mr. and Mrs. Twitter fingers, you may want to start to reconsider consider that. Maybe you enjoy, being a political pundit on yahoo.com or wherever else you can add, in your input, but there are companies that do track that, believe it or not. Now, oftentimes they're not specifically looking for you, but let's say, if you have like your resume on indeed.com, or let's say you have a LinkedIn account and you have the company's name up there are some companies that um, track your name, who you're connected to at a company. Sometimes your company tracks it. And anytime their name pops up in partnership with anybody else, whether it's you or something else, they can see where you've posted. Now, I know you may say that is so intrusive and invasive. Yes, it is, but some companies are a little crazy like that. I work for some CEOs that I thought that went a little overboard with that type of stuff. I kind of felt like it was intrusive. I had one CEO that, again, anytime our company's name popped up, she would get a Google alert, and somehow she was able to see that one of our directors was looking for another job. Now, I don't know how that she was able to see it, but she was, and oh my gosh, she was so up in arms and she wanted to fire him. I'm like, that's a bit, you can't get mad because no somebody doesn't want to work with you, but whatever, she did. I'm like, oh my goodness. And also, I had another CEO at a different company where he wanted everybody to be on LinkedIn, which we're on LinkedIn anyway, but he wanted to connect with everybody, and he would like go and see what you're posting. And I'm thinking, hey, my friend, that's too much. It's too much, right? Because LinkedIn is for me. I'm there to promote myself, not promote your company. And you may find that too, that some companies are going to say, hey, would you, sign up for LinkedIn and post what we're doing? I know some of you may say, oh, that's really not our industry, but you'd be surprised. It really just depends on who you work for. Don't always assume that you're going to be working for a smaller entity. You could be working for a major company, and they may just got the huge contract and they want to promote it, and you just never know what companies want. So just be mindful of that. But more importantly, while you're in the job search, and even as you start to get up in your career, you really want to be mindful of what you're putting on the internet. We call that your digital footprint. That means that if some savvy tech person can actually search you and find, the stuff that you've posted. When we get into our social accounts, when we start talking about networking and how these social accounts are going to work in your behalf, I'm going to talk to you about how to, I'm not going to say clean some of that stuff up, but cover some of that stuff up. So when people do Google you, which they will do, they'll find your most recent post, because that's typically what comes up. Anything you do most recently comes up first. And so I'm going to encourage you, if you're going to post anything as a professional now, so the days of being a non-professional are over. You you have taken on that mantle of being a professional. More money, more problems. So that means now you have to put on your little professional hat and you got to act professional everywhere you go. I know it's hard, but those days are over. That's what you are now, right? People expect you to be a professional. Once you swipe out that business card, or you show up to someone's door and with, hey, my name is, they expect you to be a professional, and as such, so do you, right? Like, you expect people to be a professional. I always use the example of this thing that was in the news a little while ago. I don't know how many of you have children. Who has kids? By hand, thumbs up. Anybody has kids? And okay, one or two. And and I say, if you had a kid that was in, let's say, fourth grade middle school, and they had a social studies teacher, and your kid ran upon their special page, would you have an issue with that? Who would have an issue with it if your kid stumbled upon their teacher's special page? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Would anybody have an issue with that? Your fourth grade might have a little issue with that. Now, there's some people that may argue, you know, uh, what she does after 5 is her business. Who feels after 5 what she does is her business? Who's brave enough to say that? Okay. Some people feel that way, but then again, it's like, not if my kids watching. And she lost her job. She actually lost her job. Some people say, why do you even need that job if you have that kind of page? But and she did fight it. I don't remember what the outcome was, but we all may say, well, what we do personally doesn't matter, but it depends on the situation, right? So it does matter. I'm sure you wouldn't want your pastor or someone with their only special page. You may say, hey, my friend, what are you preaching and what are you teaching, right? You're supposed to practice what you preach. We may just have an issue with that. Well, and y'all hear about people all the time, getting caught. They call them Karens. I don't like to say that because I don't like calling people names. It sounds childish, but y'all know that whole Karen saga, get somebody getting caught up doing something, and then people rat them out and where they work, and then they lose their job, which I think is horrible, to be honest. Because if you catch me on the wrong day, especially if you splash me when it's raining. Anybody ever got splashed by somebody in the rain? They're driving fast, and I may say a couple of words to or so myself, but whatever. But yeah, so digital footprint. Thank you. I consider myself a religious person, but sometimes, um, but so your digital footprint is going to be a thing. I'm telling you, maybe not this first job, and it could be. It just depends on who you go to work for. So just be mindful of it. Try to resist the Twitter fingers from here on out, or you get a pseudo name or something where they can't track you. Now, a lot of companies are using the cloud. Like, we're on the cloud now. Your campus is on the cloud. Obviously, teams are on the cloud. That just means that they're using a remote server. If you have to do paperwork, which probably many of you will, they just will probably use like Google. A lot of people use Google Docs now. That just means it's on the cloud. So, that's just some small terminology you want to pay attention to when you're reading chapter 2. Again, these little technical terms that you may or may not think about, companies do want, and I'm telling you, is not what we say, because I know oftentimes people think us academic types, don't know what the real world is about. But just be mindful that a lot of us adjunct professors, we call ourselves practitioners. That means we've been there, done that. We've been doing it for many, many years, and now we teach. We're not like with the academic educators that they get straight out of graduate school, get doctorates, and teach their whole life, and those are academic professors. Practitioners, we've been there, done that, and we are telling you what these people want. And then when you're in these types of schools, we meet twice a year. We call them PAC meetings, and I've ran quite a few of them with employers. And the number one thing that they say is they want you guys to be employment ready. They expect you to know how to send an email. They expect you to know how to write a letter. Like, I mean, things that you wouldn't even think are important with some of the stuff that you guys are doing, but you'd be surprised. They just expect you to know how to do that in addition to technical skills. So if they ask you to throw a form on the cloud, they don't want you to be like, what's that? They want you to know basic stuff. That's their words, not mine. Same thing with software and file uploads and downloads. Again, you guys may run into like someone said, you may have to do blueprints, you may have to do projects, you may have to deal with contracts, that kind of stuff. It could be something that you may have to download on your laptop or print out and things like that. So just be aware of that type of the language that you may see on your job, where your boss may say, hey, could you throw this on the cloud for us, or throw it on our server, stuff like that. You may encounter it, or you may not. You The intellectual property outside of the contracts, I don't see you guys really having to deal with that too much, but it is a thing, so just read up on it. But what does that mean? It's just something that a company may invent that they don't want anybody to infringe upon, like their copyright. They don't want anybody to plagiarize it. And they want, it is proprietary information, meaning that is their personal information that they have gone to get protected. You do that through the USPTO office. That's actually where I was supposed to work before the freeze. So I can elaborate on it just a bit. But companies, take their intellectual property very, very seriously. You may find that, if you go to work for a company that creates any type of product, that's where that type of stuff will come in at. And some of you may work at those type of institutions, you never know. All right, when it comes to netiquette, again, this is similar to being mindful of what you're doing on the internet, but also if you have to engage with people like your customers, your clients, maybe on a project team, and maybe you're not all, if you're on a project team, it may not all just be welders and electrical people. You may have to deal with the accountants, the marketing people. It depends on what type of project you have. And so they want you to understand what good is etiquette, but netiquette, just good, if you're having to send a text message or engage in a social platform or whatever it is, that there is a way to do that. You can't be using emojis and these acronyms that I just learned what TBH meant this year. Don't judge me. I had no idea what these kids were talking about. Like, what is a TBH? And some of this other stuff that y'all use, shorthand and texting, like you can't do that kind of stuff in business, right? Write it out. Don't send text. Please don't do that. I read a text that someone sent me, and I didn't know how to feel about it, because on one hand I felt kind of cool because I was thinking, oh my God, they think I'm so cool. On the other hand, I felt really old because I'm like, I have no idea what this student is saying. It was too much of it. Like, I'm like, what does this mean? I'm trying to decipher it. Like, don't assume we all know that, especially as older folks. So use proper English with full sentences. Like, not everyone understands it, right? At a certain age, we just stop being cool. I think I reached that like 2 years ago. I'm like, I don't even know what any of that stuff means. And I do have an IT background, so, and I still don't know what that stuff means. So please, please, please just know that, when you do engage, especially when you engage with your coworkers and your job, I don't care how friendly someone is. And let me tell you, I don't care how friendly someone is. Try to stay professional. When you get in that professional environment, there's a lot of rules and regulations, and you just don't want to get caught up. Trust me, you don't want to get caught up. So, don't use that language. Again, you'll see all the different rules in chapter 2, what it talks about being professional and respecting others and all that good stuff, online and in person, right? Um, Chapter 2 also talks a little bit about certifications and the professional certifications that you'll need and how it's going to help you in your career. Your instructors probably talked a lot about that. Thumbs up on if some of your technical instructors have discussed with you the type of certifications that you may need. Have y'all got to that point? Yeah, I'm sure Yeah, I know that that's what they, especially in welding. I know what the journeyman's license or something like that you guys do, and electrical master electricians for the electrical guys. I know HVAC. Anybody in the HVAC program here? Any HVAC? We got one. So what do you guys do for technical? So once you get your what's next after this? I'm just curious, Ralston. Like I know like VA, I know they can go be VTs, and then I don't know what specializations after that. Do you have like a specialization after this certification that you're getting? I see your hand is up, but I don't know if you're gonna say anything.
No, I don't.
Oh,
I
you
just have
don't,
the
yeah.
yeah, I just have the
Huh.
universal EPA.
Oh, okay, okay. So that's a good thing, and you'll be doing that in this class. Is you guys will all be doing some research on your industries, right? Because if you're gonna create your long-term goals, and that's another reason why you'll learn today what your assignment is going to be, is talking to people in your industry so you can find that out, right? How you're going to map out having a long career in something, and not know what those next steps are. You have to know what those are. Does that make sense? And in every industry, there's a lot of different lanes you can go down. Are you going to be a specialist? Are you going to be a generalist? Are you going to try to do something totally different? Like, again, if someone starts out as a veterinary assistant, you're like, are you going to try to specialize in that? Or are you going to go up to a veterinary tech, and then are you going to then maybe become a veterinarian? Or do you want to just specialize as a veterinary technician with large animals, right? There's so much you can do with that. Or do you want to just work with exotic animals? Do you want to work with domestic animals? You see what I'm saying? Maybe you want to go into pet medicine. There's so many different ways to map out your career. And so it's important to think about that. And that's one of the things we want you guys to do in this course. Any questions on that, my friends? Now, don't run off after this participation question, because I need to explain the two assignments for today. They may not be self-explanatory. Nice people have questions on them. So, but let's get this participation question out of the way. So the participation question says, I want you to name one quality that sets you above the competition. Now, one thing that, I know you may say, well, I don't know what the competition is. That's okay. It's what you think. Give me one thing, quality that you feel that you have right now that, kind of you feel makes you stand out from, you know, other people in your situation. And then one quality you think that you need to improve on. Hmm. It could be hard or soft skill, it could be personal, basic skill, it could be any of those skill sets or right? Maybe it's critical thinking or people skills or whatever it is. One thing that you think you got going on and one thing you think you can improve upon. You guys did a great job last night. Everybody, uh, please do your participation question. I think I only had one person that didn't, and I know they're going to take care of it tonight. You don't have to tell on yourself, but take care of it tonight. You are here within the sound of my voice. Make sure you complete your assignment so I can get 100% attendance. It hurts me to hurt you. I'm like that parent. I hate to discipline you. It hurts me to hurt you. Trust me, it does. I take a lot of pride in saying all my students was here. I liked all the other professors to be jealous. My students show up for my class. I'm a little competitive if you haven't noticed. All right. Now, here's your next assignment. You are going to do what we call a dream job search. So, what does that mean? We want you to be successful. One way to be successful is to network. Networking, my friends, is key. Networking is key. Networking is key. So we want you to begin. We've already asked you to create a long-term goal, right? You're going to be turning in this long-term goal and creating short-term goals in the coming weeks to help you have some type of roadmap from when you graduate, when you get out of this class, when you get out of your program. Well, before you can really think through what each of those steps are that are going to help you get to these long term goals, you may need some advice. So, we want you to have two what we call informational interviews. And you are going to meet with someone in your industry, and we don't care who it is. It can be your former instructors, your parents, cousin, next door neighbor, anybody in your industry. And I've even opened it up. It doesn't, I would prefer someone that is in the electrical field, but maybe if you could just find someone in the construction industry, I'm fine with that. But find someone that is in your industry. Now, if you can find someone that's doing what you want to do, like if you want to be an entrepreneur and you can find someone that's in your field that's an entrepreneur, that would be perfect. And I want you to go and ask them, if you can just ask them a few questions. I don't care if you call them, it doesn't have to be in person. And you're going to tell them what your long term goals are, and you want their feedback. And that's how you're going to open up this conversation. That's what networking is all about, finding that common ground and beginning those discussions. And I promise you, I haven't met a person yet that doesn't like giving advice. Have you? Tell that person what you want to do. They love giving advice. So don't ever think that you are bothering anybody when you're asking for their opinion, right? Now, but for tonight, all I want you to do is give me the name of the person you think you can speak with. Just the name. You have a whole week to talk to them, because this assignment isn't due to like the mid next week or something like that. So tonight, you're just going to tell me, I'm going to talk to Sarah Joe. She's my neighbor. I'm talking to Mr. Smith, my instructor from last month. I don't care who it is. I'm talking to my fiance because they're in the field. Who it is, just give me a name. That's all I want. Does anybody have any questions on that? All right. Now, you have to turn in a signed resume next Thursday. Before you do that, you need to know what we mean. You have to set up a meeting with career services. Some of you already know your career services. Some of you will be meeting your career services person for the first time. Um, you need to set up a meeting with them. On this assignment, it has each of your respective campuses, and it tells you to click here for your campus and go and set up a time. It doesn't mean that you're going to have to physically see them at that time. They're going to reach out to you and say, hey, we can just do a phone call. Some of them may say, come in, but it just probably depends on if you have a resume or not. If you have a resume, now I can't speak on their behalf, but 9 times out of 10, they're just going to say, send me your resume so they can review it. They have to review your resume and sign off on it. I want you to post your scheduled meet time in this assignment. That's all I want for today is your scheduled meet time. Now, some of you have to call, so obviously you can't post it today, so make sure you call tomorrow whenever and come back and post it in this assignment. You have until Sunday. By next Thursday, they should have sent you back your resume signed with their name on it. We know what their names are, so please don't have your little sister sign it for you. And you are going to turn in that signed resume. My friends, do not do yourself a disservice and say, man, I'm just going to sign it myself. Here's why you're doing yourself a disservice. Career Services is your recruiting arm for your program. If they do not have your resume on file, they cannot promote you to the potential employers that they know. Yes, Career Services knows employers. Yes, they keep a copy of your resume. And I'm going to tell you right now, you are up against hundreds of other students that have come through this program. And if I was in Career Services and some employer called me and they had 10 slots, whose resumes do you think I'm going to send them? I'm gonna send them the people that have come to me, that has engaged with me, and that have given me their resume. Yes, it is my job to try to help all of you get placed, but who's going to be at my top of my mind? It's going to be people that have engaged with me. Is that not true? So don't do yourself that disservice. This course is designed for you to get familiar with career services. Now, for those of you that are graduating, probably comes a little too late, but for those of you that are not, you get the advantage of having some time to engage with career services, for them to get to know you, for them to get familiar with your long-term goals. So when they come across a company, and companies do call these schools, companies call Southern Tech to say, hey, what kind of graduates do you have? They'd be like, oh yeah, Alyssa's great. They told me that that's something that they wanted to do, or Charlie's great, right? You don't want them to be like, oh, I got this Charlie person here, and in the back of their mind, I ain't never met the person. You don't want that drama, right? You want them to know you and to know what it is that you want. I'm just saying, right? That's my 2 cents to you. So don't do yourself a disservice. It's not that hard to send someone a resume, let them review it, and send it back to you, right? They're the experts. Let them do it. So for tonight, all I want is for you to post. You can screenshot it. You'll get this little receipt, or you can just tell me Monday at 12 is when my meeting is. That is what you're submitting for tonight for that assignment. Do we have any questions on that? Please do not submit to me a resume. Now, everybody that comes to class, they never do it. It's always the ones that think that they're just going to wing this course, and they just send me their resume. They send me resume notes. The stuff I get from the students that don't come to class. I mean, if y'all ever want to have a good laugh, but it would be unethical for me to do that. I'm like, you just telling on yourself. You clearly did not come to class. All right. So please do not send me some bullet points or an unsigned resume for tonight. Send me the date that you will be meeting with career services. All right, my friends, that is all I have for you tonight. I'm going to give you back the rest of your time. I'm stopping the recording. If we have no further questions, I will